Welcome to the Conscious Publicist Podcast, a space where thoughts become ideas to advocate for a more conscious human experience in the media. Our thoughts and ideas inspire action, and the most notable leaders and organizations have transformed thoughts and ideas into global initiatives that have impacted the lives of millions. My name is Ashley Graham, and as a woman-owned business founder and publicist, I guide leaders, visionaries, and creators in discovering their conscious media voice and methodologies that inspire connection, community, and impact through aligned media channels. In this podcast, we'll dive into public relations, thought leadership, business, and entrepreneurship, all through the lens of being a conscious human being. I'll take you behind the scenes into the habits, thoughts, and modalities that have helped leaders shift past paradigms of limiting beliefs, comparison, and self-doubt to show up for themselves to become the subject matter experts they were called to be. Subscribe to the show on Apple or Spotify and join us on this journey of awakening the conscious, enlightened leader within you. What if one of the most powerful gifts we could give our children isn't digital at all? I've been thinking about this lately, about what kind of world I want to create for my daughter. A world where she knows how to slow down, connect deeply, and express herself with intention. A world where she understands that real human connection doesn't always happen through a screen. And here's what I keep coming back to. In our rush to keep up with technology, are we accidentally teaching our children that faster is better? My guest today, Jennifer Yang, asked herself a similar question during the pandemic. She discovered a box of childhood letters at her parents' house. She saw familiar handwriting, little trinkets tucked inside, and in that moment, she didn't just remember her past. She traveled back to it emotionally. And she realized in our increasingly digital world, what are we creating for the next generation to hold on to? That question led Jennifer to create Dearest, a beautifully designed letter writing program that's now helping children rediscover the magic of putting pen to paper. In one school alone, Dearest helped students write and mail 780 handwritten letters. That's 780 points of real human connection in a world where so much communication happens through the screen. But this conversation isn't just about nostalgia. It's about something much bigger. It's about critical thinking, creative expression, independence, empathy, fine motor skills, brain development, all the things research shows us are strengthened through handwriting in ways that typing simply can't replicate. And right now, Jennifer is on a mission to bring this experience to even more children through her GoFundMe campaign. Because when you invest in letter writing, you're investing in the fundamental skills that makes us human. The ability to think critically, express ourselves creatively, and connect with others meaningfully. So today, we're exploring how something as timeless as a letter can become a catalyst for change in how children learn, connect, and express themselves. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Publicist Podcast. As a new mom, one of the things that I am very much looking forward to is following a Montessori approach to the way that my daughter learns. And when I was introduced to today's guest, it was a direct connection into the excitement and the impact of following that approach, just in a very unique lens. So my guest today is Jennifer Yang. She is the founder of Dearest. Jennifer, welcome to the show. I'm going to ask you our million-dollar question, which is, what story and message are you looking to tell through your brilliance and your wisdom, being the founder of such a beautiful and intentional brand such as Dearest?
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation here. I would say that I'm really calling upon parents, educators, and policymakers alike to invest in creative expression, specifically in writing, especially in a time now when we are trending towards relinquishing a lot of these skills to technology and thinking about what implications that may have for children now and in the future. I think we have an urgent need to invest in creative expression, and I'm excited to speak with you about that today.
That's an amazing kind of lead in into what we were talking about in our discovery call, which is the impacts that AI is going to leave negatively on the way that children learn. I would love to know exactly where do you see the benefits of AI when it comes to learning, but more so focusing on the negative parts of AI and how that can be a hindrance to the way that children learn naturally and cohesively.
Well, I certainly think there is a time and place for using AI. In my own life, just thinking about examples here and there, we recently used AI. We were planning to go to a baseball game and we asked what side of the stadium should we get tickets for a 1 o'clock in the afternoon game to avoid the sunlight. So that's a very specific use where AI can help us find the answer very quickly. And of course, there are uses of AI in research where AI is very good for recognizing patterns, analyzing huge amounts of data. I've seen some really exciting uses for in healthcare, diagnosing different diseases and matching those diseases with potential medicines that can help address specific symptoms that may not have been used in the past with those kinds of medications. So there are some really powerful ways to use AI, but when it comes to children, I think we need to be very intentional in laying the groundwork for how we are exposing them, how we're exposing ourselves to the behaviors around using the technology. As I mentioned, I think we are trending towards relinquishing a lot of the skills like critical thinking, even the use of fine motor skills to do the writing, to all the kind of skills that are required in creative expression. We are trending towards leaning on the technology to do it for us. And I think that's a very slippery slope.
I have to agree with you there. You said two key words that I'd love to focus on, which is critical thinking and creative expression. I find, is an incredible tool that if you already know how to follow a pattern of critical thinking and turn that into creative expression, it's an incredible tool to get you out of your head and to create something. But you really need to be the driving force in order to give it the information, the innovation in order to create whatever it is that you want to create. But if you rely solely on it to do the critical thinking and the creative expression, then you're really missing out on that human centric component and that humility and humanity component in it. And I feel that is where there's a big disconnect. And this is why I find so much inspiration through what you're building and what you have built with Dearest is it's bringing back that physical energy of creation, actually sitting down with the kids to teach them how to write and then actually putting the pencil or the pen in their hand to actually go through the process of writing. I feel that there's just a magic in that that you do not get through technology, especially AI.
Thank you for pointing that out. I agree. I think with our letter writing program, letters are just this magical multitasking tool that, when you think about it, it really is the combination of critical thinking with creative expression because you use the critical thinking side to come up with the words and ideas in your own mind and finding ways to communicate that out to another person. And then the creative expression of connecting with that person in your own special way with all the words and ideas that you already came up with. So it's a really fun multitasking tool that's very accessible for kids and adults to use. What I love about it is that You don't need to download an app or you don't need to buy a new piece of equipment or device in order to write a letter. It's so accessible for schools and homes.
I believe that this is a good kind of segue into talking about the box themselves. So it's a program essentially that comes into a box. You have, if I'm remembering correctly, three pamphlets. That is the focus in the box. One talking about the actual letter writing process itself. One about postage and understanding stamps, which I find is so fascinating because it brings us back to just the ways that we used to communicate with one another, and it's nice to have the history component integrated in that because they know and are learning where we've evolved from. And I think that's very special. And then the third, oh my goodness, I'm completely blanking, but there was a third pamphlet. What was that pamphlet?
It's all about why you would write a letter. First off, what is a letter? Because most kids these days haven't been exposed to letter writing, and why you would write a letter, and really laying the foundation for making letter writing relevant to kids today.
It's just such an amazing concept. I would love to know more about your inspiration behind bringing this forward. I'm sure you being a mother yourself, you found joy in going through that process with your own children.
I'd love to tell you the origin story behind Dearest. Dearest was really born on the simple truth that a handwritten letter holds this timeless magic that texts and emails just don't have. And the idea for a letter writing kit came to me back in 2021 during COVID times. I was visiting my parents' house and I found a box of letters that I had saved from when I was a kid. And instantly holding these letters and seeing the handwriting and the little magazine cutouts and trinkets inside the envelopes, it was as if time had stopped and I was a kid again. And so not only are letters timeless, they have this ability to help us time travel emotionally. And that experience really helped to ground me. It gave me perspective on who I am and where I came from. And it really got me thinking about my own kids, as you mentioned, and wondering in our tech obsessed world, is a find like this, a literal paper trail to our past, going to be something that kids today and in the future miss out on because we haven't taught them how to write letters or what even is a letter, how the mail works. And so that really gave me the impetus to start thinking about a kit for kids. I'll also tell you, in that box of letters that I found, there were all these letters that I had received from friends and family from when I was a kid. But there was one letter that caught my eye because it was actually a letter that I had written to a friend of mine from third grade. Her name is Rebecca. And instantly holding her letter, I remembered that she had moved away that year and no longer went to my school. And so I wanted to write her, thank you for being my good friend. But after all this time, her letter never got mailed because I had been waiting on my parents to buy more stamps. So her letter never got mailed. And now in the kits, I always include postage stamps so that kids can start writing and mailing their letters right when they're inspired to.
It is just such a beautiful concept and an even more beautiful story. For those listening, our connection call, I was telling Jennifer how I got all of these goosebumps as she was talking about that story because there's an energy when you can feel the physical letter. And I associated that to my obsession with collecting personal cards over the years. And I have cards from the minute that I left my hometown to move out to Southern California. And I have saved every single card from my grandmother, my grandparents, my mom, and my dad, and family members, friends. And it's just because there's a very symbolic to the different chapters of our lives. And I feel that letter writing and the way that we share moments through letter writings, whether you're sending it out to someone or writing in a personal journal. Like you said, you time travel and you're able to keep those people and those memories alive through the actual physical, tangible letter or card.
I loved hearing your personal connection about your own card collection. And you're right, it's the physical stuff that tends to last. It's a little counterintuitive because you might think, oh, if it's digitized, it's there forever. But how often are you actually going back into your emails to dig up something or searching through thousands, millions of photos that we have on the cloud? It's the physical stuff that actually lasts and easier to look back on and bring up those memories. So I loved hearing that part of your connection to letter writing.
There was such synchronicities in between both of those stories. And I feel that is just the special components that you get to bring as a part of this experience for other families and their children. I'm curious, have you heard some other stories of those that have received the box and have gone through that experience with their kids? What has really made a lasting impression on them?
I hear from people who have purchased the kits for their own kids, grandchildren, or nieces and nephews. And it's really wonderful learning about all the different ways that kids are learning about letter writing. Some have told me they purchased the kit to send off with their child over summer camp, and sometimes they mail their letters, and sometimes they get home before their letters reach home. And that again is that time travel aspect, which is so magical when you think about a child's perspective of, wait a minute, I'm home now, but I just got this letter from the past, but it's coming to me in the future. So that's a really fun thing to conceptualize with kids. The other thing I really love hearing from parents is the independence that it fosters. Kids don't need to ask permission to write a letter. They don't need to get on your phone to do it. It's an uneasy feeling to just hand over your phone to a kid, understandably. So it's really nice to give them a tool, show them that this tool exists, that they can make a connection with another person through letter writing. I've also loved hearing from customers about how easy it is to just give the kit to the kid. One of the parents I heard from said she was planning to open the kit up with her daughter and read the book and do the letter writing with her daughter, but she told me that her daughter got to the kit first and she was able to read the book all on her own, get out the stationery pack that came with it, and start writing the letter. And her daughter showed her the letter that she had written all by herself, and she was astounded. So I love hearing those kinds of stories where Dearest is really empowering kids to gain this sense of independence for themselves.
Absolutely. And that's why I used the Montessori approach identifier when we started the conversation. There's so many different types of Montessori styles of what I've been researching before my daughter made her debut. And then I'm sure there's going to be even more that I'm going to learn over the years before she's at that stage to actually start integrating some of those approaches. But with the kit like Dearest, it's very much a Montessori approach because, like you were saying, it can go one of two ways. Either the kid is so intrigued and is so curious that they want to learn on their own and explore their own creative expression through the methodology and the guide of what it's teaching them. Or there's a way to bring that relationship component where you as the parent are going through it with them to watch how they light up with the materials and then practice and implement it either with them or let them do it on their own. And I feel that when we're thinking about those key fundamental years of that child's life, the more that you're present, the more that you're involved, and then you're bringing in a special component like creative expression through writing. I feel that's a great core memory.
I very much am connected with the Montessori philosophy as well. And I've worked with a few Montessori schools to bring the Dearest program into the school. And it's pretty remarkable that I have observed students in a Montessori environment working independently and choosing their work based on their own interests within the environment and the structure that is provided there. And it's such a beautiful complement to those environments because you're right, the books and the kits and all the materials have it's all self-contained so that the kids have what they need and then it just blossoms from there. And I do believe that bringing letter writing into schools is a way to achieve the greatest impact for all these benefits that letter writing brings, like empathy building, practicing those fine motor skills, using that critical thinking. And I found that Dearest really thrives in a school environment where there is that community for kids to think about, oh, well, maybe I can write a letter to you or someone in the larger community. And I've loved working with educators to bring letter writing as a lesson into the schools.
There's so many ways that you can distribute the materials, which actually set me up for this next question perfectly is what are all the ways that people can become a part of that Dearest community? So it sounds like it's to consumer or direct to families through your online presence, but you're also working with schools to get the kits. What are some of the other ways that you're leveraging these educators or communities as a way to get Dearest into the homes of more families?
The individual kits are available for purchase for home, but I love bringing it into schools, as I said. And I can tell you a recent example. I was just in an intermediate school outside of Philadelphia near Allentown. And it was a school that's grades fourth, fifth, and sixth. They call it the intermediate school. And partnering with the librarian and the librarian programming, we launched a school-wide letter writing workshop, which was so fun. And the result, I'll go ahead and tell you, was over 780 handwritten letters sent to fellow students, senior citizens, and members of the military throughout their community and beyond. So it was super exciting to see Dearest in action. It was really a fun treat. And I even got to visit the school on one of the days for the workshop. And it was incredible seeing the students reading the books. And they were so excited because the Dearest program is unlike anything that you might see in the typical curriculum if letter writing is part of it. So typically, letter writing is not required in most elementary school curricula these days. And if students do receive a lesson on letter writing, it typically is in the form of a single worksheet, like a one-page worksheet that focuses on more of the parts of the letter, like this is where you put the date, this is the body, and then this is the closing. Well, Dearest actually, instead of doing that, we do offer instruction on the parts of a letter and how to address an envelope because those are important. But instead of starting from formatting, what makes Dearest different is that we actually begin with the emotional connection of letter writing, explaining to kids what is a letter, why would you write a letter, and how is it different from other ways of communicating with someone. And from there, that's where you really hook them in. That's how it becomes relevant to their lives today. And starting from that emotional connection, I think, is a way to inspire writing beyond just the assignment itself. And I truly see it in the kids' faces when they see the books and see the stationery that we've provided them through a school program. And they continue to talk about it and they're excited to see the postage stamps. It's like the best part because it's a sticker, but it actually has a purpose. And so they love seeing all the different kinds of postage stamps that are out there. And it just gives a much broader experience to letter writing than what they might typically see in a worksheet So I was really impressed with the librarian. She also partnered with a parent from the school who happened to be a local author. And the two of them led this school-wide workshop, really inspired to bring more creative expression, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of our conversation, because they saw a lack of creative expression that was really missing from the English language arts curriculum that their school district had recently adopted. And instead of ignoring that kind of uneasy feeling, and also they observe that every kid has a device and most of our assignments happen on a screen. Instead of ignoring that uneasy feeling of screens getting in the way of learning, they did something about it. They rallied the principal and the administration to say, hey, we want to bring in letter writing. And they helped bring Dearest into the school, and it was incredible.
There's so many things that I feel that we can still bring to light in this conversation. And so I'm going to mention the two things that were coming through for me. One
Okay.
is like with the creative expression, you're teaching children that it's okay to gain independence in a creative way. Like I can only think back in my days of being in public school, and if I was given the opportunity of learning through a more Montessori approach, I feel like I would have thrived more. I was put in a container as a creative person, and I had to follow a system and follow things by the book. Now, obviously, you get freedom as you get older and you can tap back into that. But I feel what you're doing through Dearest for these children is to gain their independence in a creative way, which I think is very beautiful. But then, two, you're showing education institutions that there is a way that you can bring a little bit more of a creative approach to learning, which I think that there's so much impact that you can tap into just from that approach itself.
I'd love to just expand on this a little more. Letter writing and other modes of creative expression like narrative writing, poetry, even cursive was once standard in elementary school curricula. And what I like to share with people is that we've seen a trend moving away from those more creative aspects from the curriculum since the early 2010s, and it can be traced back to the widespread adoption of something called the Common Core curriculum, which de emphasized handwriting proficiency and other these kinds of more creative experiences in the school. And instead, it emphasized the need to measure academic success through standardized testing. And as a result of the focus on standardized testing, it brought on a new challenge for educators to start teaching kids to begin typing earlier than before, primarily in order to take these tests. And so those small changes have brought us to this place now where we are having the majority of the assignments done via a screen, which was the observation that the librarian had prior to launching this letter writing workshop at her school. So it it doesn't happen all at once. Going back to the beginning of our conversation, where we're seeing a trend of relinquishing things like critical thinking, fine motor skills to the technology available to us. A big part of the reason why I do the work for Dearest is because I want to avoid us being in a situation where, you know, it's the empathy and the critical thinking and the fine motor skills that are at risk of becoming the next lost art, not just letter writing. A lot of people, when I tell them about my work, one of the phrases I hear a lot is, oh, that's such a lost art. But I think it's those other skills that are actually at risk of becoming the lost art.
I just got chills as you said that, because if technology and AI continues at the rate that it is, it can be very quickly that we lose those key characteristics, one of what it is to be a human, but more so what it means to be in community and in relationship with other people. I feel that we need empathy. We need to know how to communicate with one another. I mean, communication is at the core of of everything, really.
Mhm.
And I just feel that there's so much expansion that can still happen through Dearest, which sparks some curiosity. Where do you see Dearest evolving from here with your passions of being able to identify where we're going collectively and what you can do to create more impact for others?
I mean, we are just getting started. This just now we've reached a new milestone for Dearest of helping kids write and mail 2,000 handwritten letters, which is such a great data point because you can think of those letters as points of connection. So we really are fostering real connection for kids, which is exciting. Where we're headed, I really want to encourage people to think about, well, who's investing in creative expression? Who's investing in writing? If we do see all these concerns, there's so much in the media now about removing smartphones from schools. There's more and more research about the adverse effects of introducing devices for learning. We see more research studies on the benefits of writing by hand with improved learning, improved reading acquisition, greater brain activation. So I think people are starting to get on board with at least more awareness of, hey, there are certainly some benefits to introducing the technology where it's helpful, but we may need to rethink and be more intentional about how we're introducing devices and technology into early education. So I'm still very much focused on growing our voice for youth literacy and continuing our work in schools and homes to introduce letter writing to kids.
You are doing such beautiful work, and it is an honor to amplify the story and the history behind why Dearest exists. And I'm hoping that this conversation can act as that catalyst to also push Dearest forward. I've been integrating this question with my guests recently. For those who are listening or anybody in my community, what could we do to help further support you as a founder, but then also support Dearest to reach more decision makers to bring the kid as a part of their curriculum or to just get the kid in the hands of more kids?
Thank you. It would be wonderful to get more support for the work that we're doing with Dearest. You can find more information about the program and the kits and the classroom packs available for schools on my website. It's hellodearest.com. And if you're interested in bringing Dearest to a school near you, it's very easy to implement. Like I said in the example of the school that did the school-wide workshop, they were able to get the Dearest materials, which include the books, the stationery, and the postage stamps. And they were able to run the workshop all by themselves. So it's very easy to implement if you are inspired to look into, is letter writing part of the elementary school curriculum? And if not, is this something that could work in your school?
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing how we can further support you. I actually was just reminded of something that you had mentioned, talking about how cursive writing has been removed from the education curriculum. And I want to say the first time I heard that was a couple months ago, and I found that was very interesting. And so, what I was thinking, especially as you were speaking, do you envision potentially bringing a cursive curriculum to Dearest and a different type of education kit one day?
Yeah, cursive is an interesting one. It's been a pendulum that has swung away from it, but in recent years, we actually see the pendulum swinging back because there have been a number of states that have reinstated cursive instruction statewide, including California, Georgia, Iowa, and Kentucky. Those states are joining a growing list of states where they have said, you know what, we do see the benefits of cursive instruction. Not only, it's not just a nostalgia activity, it's actually helpful with the fine motor skills and making connections with letter recognition and reading acquisition. There's studies that show learning cursive actually helps with those academic areas as well. So that is a fantastic idea, combining Dearest with that new requirement. And actually, I could see schools using Dearest as a way to achieve teaching cursive because what better way to implement the cursive that you're teaching the students than with a letter?
Absolutely. If I haven't conveyed it enough, I love the work that you're doing with Dearest. It's an honor to be able to amplify your story and your message into what led you to creating Dearest. And I really hope that everyone listening finds just as much inspiration and connection to the message and the story as I have. But I just want to say thank you so much for giving us the space to tell your brilliance. And I'm hoping that those listening will be able to, like I said, create that ripple effect of getting Dearest in the hands of more kids.
Thank you so much, Ashley. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I really appreciate your thoughtful questions. And we were able to really go into a lot of the different aspects of the work. So I really appreciate having this chance to speak with you.